Hi all, we are here with James Laudersdale, Associate Professor at the University of Georgia, USA. Thank you for being here with us.
It's my pleasure.
So yesterday, your intervention during the genetical session of the 6th Aniridia Europe Conference, you talk about the Aniridia as a syndrome. What does it mean and why you think at Aniridia as a syndrome?
That's a really good question. So the reason that I think that, a disclaimer. I'm using the word syndrome in a very colloquial way. That means that it's not genetically or technically correct for PAX6, but it's useful as a concept. The reason I think that aniridia has multiple features in addition to the eye is because of where the PAX6 gene is expressed. So PAX6, in addition to the eye, PAX6 is expressed in the developing brain, and also in cells in the pancreas and in the intestine.
So one of the most interesting things that you told yesterday is the impact of PAX6 and Aniridia on the cortex. What is the most important insight or elements about it?
Another very good question. So PAX6 is really important for setting up the parts of the brain that are involved in hearing and the process of processing speech. And so people with aniridia with PAX6 mutations often experience a problem or difficulty in processing spoken language. It's not that they can't hear it, but it's a trouble in decoding the words into something that the brain can understand. And so this means that the brain has to work harder in order to process speech both normally and especially in a noisy environment.
You are collecting data about it from 2004 and maybe before, but what are the most important factors that you have found on Aniridia as a syndrome, always in terms of concept, that impact the people, the patient, and their quality of life?
The first thing that's noticeable is, especially in the context of children, is that they often need a quiet environment to learn as well as their peers. And so children who are in a very noisy environment, right, they're working hard to learn language, they're working hard to learn math or whatever the subject is. And so they sometimes fall behind in a noisy classroom. And so putting the children in a more quiet environment often helps them learn better.
And so, according to this, what could be the advices or the important things to do as a doctor, as a specialist, to help patients under this point of view?
Well, there's several things. The first is to think about the person with aniridia in the context of what that means. And not make an assumption that the child is learning disabled or has an attention deficit problem in the way that we usually think about it. And so, in my opinion, it's better to start with things that are, put a child in a quiet environment as opposed to rushing to drugs, although I'm not an MD and there are certainly cases where drugs could be useful. In all cases, people need to work with their doctors as always.
And so, according to your research, your study, your data, what is the perspective? So what will bring you the research?
Two things, actually three things. First of all, working with the Aniridia community is really, really important for helping us understand what the issues are that we need to be paying attention to. Secondly, it's important to have a good animal model system, and fortunately for us, there are several rodent models, mice models out there that do a very good job of capturing what aniridia is, and so then we can study it in more detail. And then we can go back to the patients and see if the ideas that we've formed in the mice hold up with people. Once we know that, then we can make recommendations, and I don't mean we personally, but the Aniridia community can make recommendations about the best way to help people with aniridia live more healthy lives.
And you don't know that maybe the concept of aniridia as a syndrome could scare the people, the patients. Maybe it's too much for a patient. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. When one sees a list of things that could go wrong, it can be very scary, especially for parents. And as a parent, I can say that with authority. The important thing to remember, though, is that it's just an increased possibility or a list of things that could possibly be happening to any given individual. But just like the normal PAX6 normal population, right? There are people with the diabetes, there are people who don't have diabetes, there are people who are heavy, there are people who aren't heavy. And so that's true for aniridia as well. It may shift the balance a little bit, but that doesn't mean that any one person is going to have all of the things that we can find in the population.
So the thing is that if you know, you can take care before in advance.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your answer and for your availability today.
My absolute pleasure, and thank you for asking.
Thank you.